Hey all, this is Urs. I haven't talked to you in person for a little while, but there's two quick things I wanted to address. I figured this was the easiest way to do so. Number one, the voting has come in off of SurveyMonkey for the future of the channel post XCOM 2, and it looks like we actually have a super majority of people asking to not do any more XCOM 2 for now and focus on Stellaris, Long War, and Civ instead. We'll probably hit XCOM 2 up again when maybe Shen's Last Gift comes out, or maybe some kind of major mod that I'm like, oh my god, we gotta do it. But for now, no more XCOM 2 until there's some new content to explore, and we'll be focusing on the series that are still pending on the channel in the interim. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, because there's big news last week, and it's like last week, but Civ 6 is coming out this year, in October. Damn! Already it feels like, even though Civ 5 is relatively an old game by certain developer standards, it's gotten a new life from mods like I tend to feature on the channel, and it feels still pretty recent, pretty current, but Civ 6 is coming out. So we do really want to address that and talk about that for a brief second. I've been getting a lot of questions, like either by email or by message or by comment, like what do you think, bada 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 bada. So I figured I'd do, at the risk of sounding like a reaction girl, so to speak, but I could always like, no, it's creepy. I won't do that. But I do want to give my thoughts, because I wasn't special enough, or big enough or popular enough to get my hands on the copy itself. I've watched some of the videos. I think I'll link Marb's video down there, because he got flown out to Firaxis to see the new footage. If you haven't seen it already, I'm pretty sure y'all have seen that already. But I gathered a couple thoughts on the stuff that he mentioned that could really change gameplay, or things that are really good or I'm a little worried about, or vice versa for Civ 6. Overall, though, I think it looks really positive. I think the first thing I want to say is that unlike Civ 5, it looks like it's going to be fully featured at release, in the context of, like, Civ 5 didn't have tourism, didn't have trade routes, didn't have religion from release. It was a little weird. It felt like, compared to Civ 4, stuff was missing. And it appears that they're not going to be doing the same mistake on Civ 6. So that's probably got me really, really excited that that's actually going to be there from day one, which is nice. They also mentioned really good modding support. They always say that. But so far, it's going to be pretty good in the sense of XCOM 2, they said that, and they delivered. There's a lot of mods out there, very easy to make, and very easy to make compatible, I think. They don't break it too hard with new patches. So we'll see how that goes. They're promising easier ways to run mods in multiplayer. I'll believe it when I see it. It's pretty hard to do, I think, especially with the number of mods out there and some incompatibilities here and there or whatever, but I'd love to see that, honestly. Right now, the only way you can play multiplayer with mods is Hot Seat with some workarounds, some really weird shit. So I'm looking forward to see if that will pan out the way you expect. So the other point, I see two tech trees, and I think that's a really neat thing. They've taken culture from here's just 5 options in a tiered policy. Rather, they're going to mix and match stuff based on a tech tree for culture, which I think is great. It's kind of like, I guess, the Stellaris Society research, but not quite. It's more along the lines of mixing, matching ideas here and there, And I think that's a great idea. It's a neat way to really customize the policies of your Civ, and it'll probably prevent the game from falling into 4-city tradition openings that easily. Forced order optimal strategies like that, or foo strategies, is never nice to see in a standard game, so it's pretty cool that we can do that. I mean, sure, there's going to be an optimal way to do it, but I think that'll be more flexible in customizing, tweaking things here and there that'll make gameplay better. And it's also dependent on your government type, apparently. It'll be easier for, autocracies to do militaristic stuff in your policies, more militaristic idea slots or something like that. So I'm looking forward to see how that shakes out. And apparently you get a lot of these, and there's a lot of malleability. Marv says, like, by turn 60, you can get like 15 or 20 of these things from a culture tree. And that's neat. That means there's a lot of ways to tweak how your Civ runs. And that, I think, is really, really cool. So the other big thing was the Eureka moments for all techs. This seems like things you do or things you happen to do on the map or in the environment or in-game will affect how quickly you get a tech. That seems like a great idea, because right now, I mean, like all 4X-ish games, tech is kind of king. You got to keep running your tech, otherwise you're going to fall behind. So this way, I think it'll actually reduce spamming tech buildings as hard, because you can do other stuff. You can explore really hard or build this particular type of military. I mean, I don't know what the options are. I have no idea what eventually going to shake out to be. But it's a way of catching up on tech that doesn't require you just to spam universities as soon as you get them, spam libraries as soon as you get them, and things like that, things of that nature. So that's really, really nice. And it's neat because you can actually use production to get tech rather than actual science output by doing some of these things. I know he mentioned, or I heard, there's like you can build like 3 or 2 ships and get some kind of new tech from that, or get a big boost toward that tech. So it's really turning hammers into science if you want to focus on production and not focus on science is hard. And I think it's a really neat idea, and I'll see how it pans out. I mean, there could still be an optimal way to do things in the end. It could be, depending on how it's balanced, libraries and universities will be, bam, the only way to go. But until we get there, I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic. Other nice thing is nice wonders. Wonders take up space, and wonders have a lot more stringent requirements. I think this is brilliant. I think it's a neat way to control wonder spam without having a hard cap, like you can only build 3 wonders per city or something like that. It's going to be hard to optimize, and it'll stop wonder spamming as hard just because you won't be able to do it. You simply won't have room, or you'll cripple your infrastructure building wonders in the spot you really needed that, I don't know, lumber mill or the deer camp or something along those lines. So I think that is a brilliant thing that was a very smart solution for Firaxis, and the fact that it's more stringent to build them. Like, one example was Stonehenge. I mean, for now, this is like pre-alpha build practically. But Stonehenge requires a stone source adjacent in order to build the wonder. So that's, again, a limitation. You can't necessarily do that easily. Not every city is going to be able to do that. So the AI with 40 wonders in their capital and the other guy with none, that'll probably be better, honestly, in the long run. So I think that's really, really neat. On the construction topic, looks like there's no standard workers anymore. They're just builders, which have limited uses. So you can't just have like one worker and build everything for you. They build improvements instantaneously. They have a limited number of uses. So this implies a couple things, I guess. A, you won't be getting a lot of useless workers from your conquest. You don't have to constantly, get rid of them or dismiss them, or just have the AI just send armies of workers at you it doesn't want anymore. But the other key thing with this is, I think it'll actually help you get earlier workers easier. Because right now, it's a pretty hefty production cost early on in the game to build a worker. And you're always like, do I invest? Do I city-state steal? I don't know. It's tough to judge that. When is the best time to build a worker? And then opportunity cost. Do I need that archer to defend myself? Or that workers take so long? It's 310 gold to buy. It's expensive. Builders, because there are limited use, I think the actual root production for a builder would be cheaper early on. Because that way, you only get 4 uses out of it. It's not like a worker that'll last you through the great game, so you have to make that production cost high. So I think it'll actually make getting an infrastructure earlier easier. I think it's a lot more fun rather than just, seeing your cities completely undeveloped and you're like, wow, I really should get a worker to build these 5 Luxes I've had. So I think that's actually a neat idea, and I'm looking forward to see how that changes balance. But I think the difference is going to be there. The initial cost is probably going to be cheaper, and it'll make quick start a lot faster, which will help you catch up to the AI on harder difficulties if they do the same AI programming. I don't know where the advantages are going to be, but we'll see. The other big thing, I guess, when we're talking about mobility and moving and building workers, is that the mobility is different. So, for example, now, let's say you have a unit with 1 movement cost left and you got to enter a forest hill. That's 3 moves. It's not going to be that way anymore. You won't be able to enter it anymore. In Civ 5, you can pay that 1 remaining movement point and get up there and just burn it out. Here, you need all 3 to get into that tile if those rules were applied equivalently. And that is going to change a lot. There will be no shortcuts through terrain. You always have to go through that terrain. There's no optimal way to hit the hill or things like that nature. And it's probably going to change combat a lot. It's going to change combat a lot to get that done properly. So I'm looking forward to see how that changes things. It's just going to be a new rule to learn, and if you watch, I'll probably fuck it up a lot initially out, but I think it's going to be a very neat logistical change to kind of keep that running. I guess we should probably talk about diplomacy. There wasn't much that I found out about diplomacy, but 2 things stood out. One was the hidden agendas, which I think is a great idea. It's a nice way to have some randomness in the game without being like, Monty's going to go kill me. He'll probably still want to kill you, but he may want to trade you a profit first or something. It's basically every AI leader is going to have a historically, term used very loosely, historically accurate agenda that he'll always have. So, I don't know, Monty's going to want sacrificial captives, and Washington's going to want your land. I have no idea. Or he wants to fight the British, whatever. But secondary thing is that it'll be a totally randomly selected one they'll also be going for. Like Monty wants sacrificial captives, but also wants to develop the fine arts and is really a fan of great musicians. So he'll do stuff to get great musicians, or he'll try to steal your great musicians, or whatever. So that'll be a neat way to show some variation in how the AI plays, rather than just like, well, he's probably going to want to kill me again, because that's what he always does. And that'll be an interesting way of playing that interplay. And the other neat thing that I saw was, I'll talk about surprise wars first. Wars, you need to like denounce people now in order to make it not a surprise war. Early on, that's no big deal because, one tribe runs to another one. It's like, hey, I want your food. And that's kind of how it was. So that's usually okay. As Civ gets more expansive, maybe in the Renaissance, you need to actually be like, or even in the medieval era, you need to actually denounce someone before throwing a surprise attack at them. Otherwise, other people will be angry at you. Like, what an uncivilized brute or something like that, which would be cool. But the last thing I wanted to talk about also about the whole diplomacy thing, it'll be clearer what you can do to improve your standing with someone else. Because right now, with EUI and a couple mods in Civ 5, you can relatively see the modifiers and how strong they are. Like, this is really positive. I didn't buy land near him. Or, I'm much stronger than he is. He doesn't want to do this. Or I liberated his worker. He's really happy about that. But now we're having some border friction. So you can see the current ones right now. You will be able to see stuff you can actually do to improve it. And it'll be very clear. It'll make diplomacy a little more transparent. Like, Monty wouldn't mind a donation of 100 gold to fund his new opera house. Sure, I have some money. Maybe he won't send his giant military after me in that case. And that'll be a nice way to kind of use the politics to your advantage rather than the usual pay this guy to dow that guy and maybe that guy can be killed easier. Like, that's kind of what it is right now. And I think the diplomacy, anything that improves Civ diplomacy from its current state, good by me. Last but not least, I guess there's not a lot of details about the other stuff, but one other major thing is how cities develop. You can build districts from your cities, so you don't just build buildings. It looks like you build regions that, again, take up space, just like Wonders, just like Improvements do, around your city. There's a bunch of different ones you can build. They have different bonuses. There's like a science-focused one. There's probably like a village-focused one. There's probably going to be a few. And this is going to add a lot more strategy. You won't have like the lame city with just 20 plains around it with no resources whatsoever, and you'll sit there kind of going, well, I guess we're going to build a lot of farms. That's not going to happen. You'll be able to be like, oh, I want to build an academy here, or expand like a trade district out here to get more production. It's a way of making each city more unique and targeted. Apparently, like, jack of all trade cities won't be there anymore. You gotta really have to focus how you develop things, and that's neat. Again, and that jives into improvements. That jives into, do I want to go for the Wonder? Do I really want this science district here instead? All that sort of stuff will be neat. And again, because there is some things, I did notice there is something like a science district. It's another way of potentially not requiring science building spam. Like, if you get a really good location for like an academy next to a jungle and a mountain or something, which is the current build that I saw from other people's videos. I'm so sad about that. Oh well, grow the channel, get me for access. Anyway, you could do that rather than, again, spamming science buildings all the time. And it could be a neat way of using geography as a science boost rather than just going, well, build another library in that city and we'll see what happens. Like, I guess I'm ragging on that a little too much. But it's kind of the rationalism issue, right? Like, I hope there's not a science policy. I really hope there's no science boosting policy ever, because 9 times out of 10 it'll be the right choice. And I really hope either it's put late in the game if you really want to get that last science victory push, because right now, getting to Renaissance, rationalism is necessary. I hope Civ 6 doesn't make that same error. I guess two last things to talk about. Barbarians. I hope they're stronger. I hope they're scarier, and it sounds like they may be. If a barbarian finds your city now, they may send a barbarian raid toward you with a bunch of units. Kind of save it in instead of just having one guy running around, you shoot him, and then wait a couple more years and shoot the other guy that's running around. Like, it'll make barbarians more dangerous. It'll make an early military more necessary, but with the changes to policies, with the changes to production, and with the changes to science maybe, you can actually afford an earlier military, or with a worker, the earlier build cost. You can get that up and running quickly if you're being assaulted by hordes and hordes of uncouth heathens trying to take your city and burn civilization to the ground. It's highly possible. They mentioned the city-state system is going to be different. No details that I saw on it that actually make any sense. In a gameplay sense, it's not going to be a pay money and gain rep sort of situation. You have envoys, you can do things for them. The quest system will be deeper. So hopefully more interaction with city-states rather than like, well, the AI has a plus 40% gold bonus on this difficulty, so they get the city-states. if we can minimize that from a gameplay perspective, I'd be all for it. So I think that's all I've got for now as far as Civ 6 thoughts. But because people have been asking me, like, what do you think? What about this? I just want to collate in one place. If you sit through the whole discussion that I just had and you sat through and you soldiered on, good on you. Thanks for checking it out. If you didn't, that's okay too. But I wanted to have them collate in one place so people can just go here, hear what I have to say, and we can call it from there. So, in summary, Civ 6, woo! October, sounds good. I like what I hear. We'll see what comes out. And future of the channel, for the time being, until more XCOM 2 DLCs or really cool mods come out, going to be Long War, it's going to be Civ, and it's going to be Stellaris. That's the plan, and I will see you all next time. Till then.